Your parents probably have a photo like this. Mid-1950s, a family in their living room. Mother on the couch, father standing behind, 4 children arranged perfectly. Flowers on the table, nice furniture, everyone dressed well. It looks like the American dream, the kind of photograph that defined the 1950s. Stable, prosperous, traditional family structure. This image has everything you'd expect. Nuclear family, suburban home, post-war optimism. But here's what photographs like this don't show. When you trace these families through records, property deeds, employment histories, school registrations, even census data, you often find gaps, inconsistencies, details that don't match the carefully staged perfection. Because these photographs weren't just family memories, they were performances, carefully constructed images designed to project stability, even when that stability didn't exist. Your own family might have photos like this. Pictures that look perfect, that show everyone smiling, well-dressed, arranged just right. But if you asked your parents or grandparents about those moments, really asked, you might hear a different story. About the debt behind the nice furniture, about the job that was already ending, about the marriage that was already fracturing, about the child who wasn't actually theirs. The photograph shows what families wanted to project. The records, when you can find them, show what was actually happening. This is how mid-century photography became a tool for maintaining appearances. The 1950s created a specific visual language for family photography, and it was everywhere. Look at how consistent these images are. Father standing or sitting elevated, always positioned as head of household. Mother seated or lower, often with the youngest child on lap. Children arranged by height or age. Everyone formally dressed, clean, decorated homes visible in background. This wasn't accidental. Professional photographers marketed these portraits specifically. Capture your family's success. Show the world your beautiful home and children. A portrait for every milestone. The portraits were sold as proof of achievement, evidence that you'd made it into the middle class, that you were living the American dream. Photography manuals from this era gave explicit instructions. Father should appear authoritative but warm. Mother should appear nurturing and well-groomed. Children should appear well-behaved and healthy. Home should appear clean, modern, comfortable. These weren't candid moments. They were carefully directed performances. When you find informal photographs from the same families, snapshots, not portraits, you see different expressions, different dynamics. Children looking bored or restless, parents looking tired or tense. Homes looking lived in rather than staged. The contrast reveals how much work went into creating the formal portrait. Now compare these perfect family portraits to census records from the same households. The 1950 census lists occupations, often lower status than the photographs suggest. Housing, renters presented as homeowners in photo settings. Household composition, sometimes children or adults not shown or added. Income levels, rarely matching the affluence displayed. Here's one case. Photograph shows prosperous-looking family of 5 in well-furnished home. Census record shows father, factory worker, income $3,200 per year. Mother, part-time seamstress, unlisted in the photo narrative. 3 children listed, but photograph shows 4. Address, rented apartment, not owned home suggested by photo setting. The photograph and the record tell different stories. This pressure to present perfect families was intense. Magazines celebrated the ideal suburban family. Advertisers used family imagery to sell products. Employers evaluated men partly on their family stability. Banks required stable family situations for mortgages. Social services judged parenting partly on appearances. Having the right kind of family photograph wasn't just vanity. It was social and economic survival. But let's talk about why mid-century families needed to project perfection. Why these photographs became performances rather than memories. It comes down to how American society defined success in the post-war era. The 1950s had very specific requirements for respectability. Traditional family structure, married heterosexual couple with biological children. Male breadwinner with stable employment. Female homemaker, well-groomed and domestic. Children who were well-behaved, healthy, appropriately gendered. Home ownership in the suburbs. Consumer goods showing prosperity, TV, modern appliances, car. This wasn't just cultural preference, it was enforced through institutions. Banks denied mortgages to families that didn't fit the template. Employers passed over men who weren't married with children. Schools scrutinized families that seemed unstable. Social services removed children from inappropriate households. Insurance companies charged more for non-traditional families. So, families learned to perform stability, even when they didn't have it. Behind these perfect photographs, economic precarity. Many families photographed in their living rooms were actually in photography studios with prop furniture. Families borrowed clothes or furniture to appear more prosperous. The nice car visible in some photos might be borrowed or about to be repossessed. Despite appearances of prosperity, consumer debt exploded in the 1950s. Families bought on credit to maintain appearances. The furniture in the photograph might not be paid for. Family composition secrets. Not all children in these photographs were biological children of the pictured parents. Post-war adoptions surged. Many babies born to unmarried mothers were quietly adopted. Stepchildren from previous marriages were often presented as biological children. Foster children or informally adopted relatives might be included without explanation. Some children shown were actually nieces and nephews being raised after family crises. The records show complexity the photographs hide. Previous marriages not mentioned. Children from different fathers treated as full siblings. Deceased spouses whose existence was minimized. But the photograph presents them all as one nuclear family. Tidy, traditional, uncomplicated. Marital instability. Despite the era's emphasis on permanent marriage, divorce rates were rising throughout the 1950s. Separations were common even if divorce didn't happen. Many couples stayed together for appearances while living separate lives. Some of these perfect family portraits were taken months before the parents separated, as deliberate efforts to save a failing marriage, to present stability to employers or family courts. The photograph showed what was supposed to be, not what was. Employment instability. The 1950s weren't as economically stable as mythology suggests. Job turnover was high. Layoffs were common. Many men had periods of unemployment they hid from families. Families commissioned formal portraits right before father lost his job to have proof of past success. During unemployment, to maintain appearances with extended family. Using savings meant for other necessities because appearances mattered that much. The man standing proudly in a suit might have been unemployed when the photo was taken. Mental health and addiction. The 1950s had massive rates of untreated depression and anxiety, especially in women. Alcoholism in men, often hidden from public view. Prescription drug dependency, especially mothers' little helpers. The smiling mother in the photograph might have been on heavy medication. The composed father might have been an alcoholic. But these realities never appeared in formal portraits. Contemporary advice literature of the era explicitly told families, present your best self to the world. Never let others see family problems. Your photograph represents your family's dignity. This wasn't about dishonesty, it was about survival in a judgmental society. So they staged the photographs, and they hid the rest. And here's what's missing from this specific photograph. 6 people, perfect composition, mid-1950s living room. The photograph has been preserved, but what it doesn't show is anything about what happened next. You can see a mother who appears composed and well-groomed, a father standing with authority, 4 children arranged by age, all looking presentable, a furnished home with modern amenities. But you cannot know from the photograph alone whether this family owned this home or was renting, whether the father was employed when this was taken, whether the mother was struggling with depression, whether all these children were biological siblings, whether this marriage lasted another year or 10 years, whether this portrait was commissioned to project stability during a crisis. These details exist somewhere in records. Property records might show renters, not owners. Census might show different household composition. School records might reveal children with different surnames. Employment records might show gaps or instability. Divorce records might show this marriage ended within years. But those records are scattered, filed separately, never connected to the photograph. The photograph presents a snapshot of perfection. The records, when you can piece them together, show complicated reality. And the two are never filed together. So the photograph becomes the story. The records, contradictory, incomplete, scattered, don't. When families today find these photographs, in estate sales, in attics, in archived collections, they see perfection. They assume that's how life was. They don't know about the debt behind the furniture, the marriage falling apart behind the smiles, the children who weren't biological siblings, the job loss that came 2 months after the portrait. Because the photograph is all that survived with context, the messy reality stayed in scattered, disconnected records, or wasn't documented at all. Look at this photograph again. 6 people in a living room, arranged perfectly, dressed well, smiling appropriately. When you first saw this, it probably looked like countless other family photos from the 1950s. Maybe it reminded you of your own family's old portraits, the kind your parents or grandparents keep in frames or albums. But now you understand what might be hidden beneath that perfect surface. These people sat for this portrait for a reason. They got dressed up, arranged furniture, posed carefully. They paid a photographer. They wanted this image to exist. But why? Maybe they were creating proof of success, showing extended family they'd made it. Maybe they were documenting a milestone, new home, new job, complete family. Maybe they were creating evidence of stability for a mortgage application, custody dispute, or employer. Maybe they were trying to hold together something that was falling apart, believing that if they could look like a perfect family, they might become one. Or maybe this actually was a moment of genuine happiness, a brief period of genuine stability captured before things changed. We can't know from the photograph alone. What we do know is this: every family in the 1950s felt this pressure to look perfect, to perform stability, to hide struggle. Your own family's photographs from this era, the ones that look so composed, so prosperous, so happy, they were performances too. Not lies exactly, but carefully constructed versions of truth. When you find informal snapshots from these same families, birthday parties where people look tired, holidays where tensions show, everyday moments where the performance drops, you see the complexity the formal portraits hid. The people in this photograph were real people. They had real lives, real struggles, real moments of joy and crisis. But the photograph only shows what they wanted seen. And the records, scattered, incomplete, disconnected from the image, can't fill in what's missing. So we're left with a performance, perfectly staged, carefully preserved, and completely unable to tell us what was actually happening in this family's life. The photograph survived. The truth behind it didn't. And I can't tell you who this family was. I can't tell you whether this photograph shows a genuinely happy moment or a desperate performance of stability. I can't tell you what happened to this family after this portrait was taken, whether they thrived or struggled, stayed together or fell apart. I can't tell you which of the details in this image are real, the home ownership, the employment, the biological relationships, and which are staged for the camera. What I can tell you is this: mid-century family photography created an entire visual language of perfection, and families learned to perform within that language, not because they were dishonest, but because the cost of appearing imperfect was too high. Your own family probably has photographs like this, images that look flawless, that suggest stability, prosperity, happiness, and maybe those things were real, or maybe they were performances. The photograph can't tell you which. This is the 8th photograph in this series examining how documentation systems and the people within them decided what to show and what to hide, If you want to see what other systems concealed behind perfect surfaces, subscribe. Because the gap between the image we project and the life we actually live isn't just historical, it's in every family album, including yours.